Similar to taking action, a desire can come from two different sources. It can either stem from contrast or from expansion. Contrast means that you have experienced something unwanted, something where you felt lack, something where you felt a threat, something where you were not fulfilled, and therefore you create this strong desire to experience the opposite of that. A desire that stems from expansion gets created when we experience something wanted and we liked it so much that we want more of it. The reason for why it is so important for you to know the difference between those two is because a desire that is created from contrast usually brings attachment to the outcome with it, and therefore makes the fruition, the fulfillment of said desired manifestation a little harder to achieve. On top of that, having experienced contrast means that your brain has registered evidence for its existence, so it creates a general, logical and experience-based amount of resistance towards the opposite, the wanted, within you. A desire that got created from expansion, however, gets created from already experiencing something wanted. So in that case, your brain has already registered evidence for the wanted existing. You have already experienced the good and realized logically and emotionally that this is good for you and causing no harm or threat to you. Therefore, the accomplishment of the desired manifestation is going to be rather easy for you. Now, of course, that does not mean that a desire that stems from experiencing contrast cannot be fulfilled. Of course not. But it does more often than not require you to actually change who you are, change your self-concept, change your identity, and change how you see yourself in relation to the entire topic in which you want to manifest something new. To give you a few examples, most people on this planet have a general desire for more money, a higher income, and more financial freedom. Now, for a person that has never experienced poverty, has never experienced a massive, maybe even life-threatening lack of money, it's going to be very easy to rely on income, rely on money always being around, rely on and easily demand without resistance the security that money offers them. Therefore, this person will have less resistance towards a bigger amount of income. Less resistance equals more awareness for opportunities to actually achieve that income. And then that person will also be more easily inclined to act inspired rather than out of fear. On the flip side, a person that has experienced a lack of money, has experienced not making ends meet, has experienced some bad consequences due to not having enough financial resources, needs to first overcome the attachment and dependency, emotional dependency, not materialistic dependency on money, before they then can even attempt to manifest in more. On top of that, the person that comes from the more poverty side of the spectrum will also not be used to having a stream of income that is sufficient for their lifestyle. And therefore, that person will most likely even have to learn about finances first, learn how to talk about money in a positive sense, learn how to invest, learn how to spend, and learn how to be comfortable with having money without constantly fearing that it's not gonna come anymore, that it will go away, or that you're gonna lose everything. The way this difference manifests in practice is that usually the person that does come from a financially relatively stable background has an easier time manifesting directly money, currency, cash, while The person who comes from an unstable financial background usually has an easier time manifesting goods, objects, and opportunities, but struggles with manifesting direct cash, currency, and finances. However, the cool thing about this vast universe of massive variety is that we often find good replacements. I'm going to give you a personal example of my own. For a little while now, I've been thinking about buying my own apartment. And for a few months, I've actually enjoyed having that desire and that idea, and I enjoyed the creation aspect of this manifestation. But since this is a rather big manifestation goal of mine, I did ask myself, what is the actual intention behind owning this apartment? Where's this desire even coming from? And I found out that my desire to own an apartment actually stems from having negative and bad experiences with previous landlords. Experiences where I needed to hide the amount of cats I own, experiences where I got more or less kicked out of apartments, where I was never really stable, never really safe and secure, and where my creativity and the way I express my creativity in my living space was limited by the ideas, demands, and restrictions of that landlord. So my desire was actually for freedom and ownership in order to secure and save me, so that I will not be dependent on anybody else's ideas and limitation. And so I realized that this desire actually stems from contrast. It's not stemming from the desire for expansion of that what I already have. Now, while again, I would still be very much able to just manifest the apartment and go through the entire enchilada of process of changing my self-concept and my mind and my beliefs and blah, 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 I simply chose to have a different desire. And so I asked myself, if I was to create a home for myself with the intention of expansion, where would that actually stem from and how would that look like? And I realized that a small house / little villa would actually suit me way, way, way better. And even though owning an entire freaking house / small villa is a little bit intimidating for me because I've never even lived in a house for more than a few days, this desire stems from the intention of expanding the amount of cats that I can rescue and also extending my business. So owning an entire house covers both aspects that are very important to me personally in a way where it comes with expansion of that what I already have. And therefore, thinking about an entire house, even though logically it sounds a little bit crazy to me, is much easier, less resistance creating, and more pleasant than thinking about owning an apartment. Whenever I thought about the apartment, even though I enjoyed that one too, I felt a sense of urgency. I felt a sense of I need to accomplish that. I felt a lot of resistance towards renting yet another apartment. I didn't want to do it, so there's a lot of pressure around that topic. However, when I think about the house, I have no time urgency whatsoever. There is zero resistance. It's more of a cool project, something that I anticipate with excitement, but I couldn't care less about when it happens or how exactly it's gonna happen. There is no pressure, no urgency, and no resistance attached to it. And that lack of urgency, pressure, and resistance is obviously altering my personal, emotional, and mental state for the better, because thinking about the house still keeps me in neutral, slightly optimistic, and a little bit excited, while thinking about the apartment kind of drags down my emotional, mental state a little bit and makes me focus a little bit too much on the past that was not how I wanted it to be. Now let's get to the practical aspect. How do we actually figure out where our desire stems from? Well, it's super easy. It's as simple as can be. You just ask yourself, Why do I want this? Whether it's money, it's a specific person, it's a specific job, it's a car, it's an apartment or a house, whether it's your desire to move somewhere, live somewhere else, or experience anything really. Just ask yourself, why do I want this? And be honest with yourself. If you start justifying your desire with reasons from the past, or if you feel an internal trigger, some kind of tension, some kind of emotional distortion, then you can be almost certain that your desire stems from contrast. And again, that does absolutely not mean that you cannot have your manifestation. Of course you can. But if you are unable to find a different version of your desire, like me with the apartment and the house, then it means that you need to prepare yourself and be ready and accepting of the fact that it's gonna take a lot of internal work and healing. Even though you may not like the word healing, it takes healing to overcome your attachment to that negative thing that used to happen in the past. Your desire needs to be strong enough for you to be willing to go into healing, to be willing to change your self-concept, to be willing to shift your identity, and to be willing to really do the inner work and not just plaster on a bunch of affirmations.